guys, today we're going to be adding and subtracting with rationals. If you remember from the beginning of the unit, rationals are numbers that can be written as fractions and decimals. So we are going to review today how to add and subtract decimals and how to add and subtract fractions. These are skills that you've done in grades past and you spend a lot of time doing them in 6th grade, but I wanted to refresh to make sure that you know how to do it, and then we're going to add negatives in. So we're going to be adding and subtracting decimals and fractions, and some of the fractions will be positive and some of them will be negative. So here's your table of contents, adding and subtracting, and page number 15. So copy that down, and then you can copy down your notes. So you don't have to lay it out like this if you don't want to. If you just want to do like adding decimals and then do your work and then do subtracting decimals and share your work. This is just how we have it set up for class, so that's why it does look like this. So as long as you have this information in your notebook, I don't care how you set up your page exactly. Okay, so pause the video, copy down what you want, how you want to do it, and then I'm going to start reviewing / teaching, okay? So the first thing that we're going to look at is adding decimals. So this is page 15. Make sure you number your notebook. And it just, I've typed out the directions. So you're going to line up the decimal points when you add. Okay, so we're adding decimals. That's how I read this table. So we're going to line up the decimal points. We're going to fill in any spaces that we need to with zeros that are empty so that you can see place value really easily. And then you add like normal. So if I gave you the problem 4 7/78 plus 9 587 thousandths, I would need you to add those together. So in order to add, you do have to line up the decimals, okay? So I'm going to write it vertically. And I'm going to make sure my decimal points line up. Well, here we have this gap, so that's where I'm talking about. You're going to add a 0 as a placeholder, okay? That way you can see the numbers and you can add easily. So we're going to just add like normal. 0 plus 7 is 7. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. And then 7 plus 5, it's going to get you 12. Plus 1 more is 13. Carry the 1. And we have 9 plus 4, which is 13, plus 1 more is 14. And then you just bring that decimal down, and this would be our final answer, 14 367 thousandths. Hopefully you remember and you're like, oh yeah, that's easy, okay? So when we subtract, it's essentially the same thing. So you're gonna line up those decimal points, and then you fill in any zeros for placeholders, and then subtract like normal, okay? So here is your problem. We're going to do 3 87 hundredths minus 3 632 thousandths. Just a reminder, with subtracting, order does matter. So make sure you solve the problem in the order that it gives you. So here I just wrote it vertically, and I filled in a 0 for a placeholder. And now I'm going to subtract. Well, 0, take away 2. You're going to have to regroup for that. So 10 minus 2 is 8. 6 minus 3 is 3. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 3 minus 3 is 0. And again, you just bring down your decimal. And that is your answer. So, adding and subtracting with decimals. I think you guys are good with that, but just in case you needed a refresher, now you have one. So next we're going to look at fractions, so adding and subtracting with fractions. So here it's a little bit different. You have to remember the rules in order to not mess up, and I think in general you just need to be reminded of a couple things because it's been a long time since you've been in school. Some of you might think this is super easy, and that's awesome, but in case you need a refresher, here we go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is write the problem. You find the least common denominator Or you can even just make the denominators equivalent, add the numerator, keep the denominator, and then you simplify. So if you remember with fractions, fractions show a part-to-whole relationship. And so the reason that we cannot add 1/6 plus 4/5 as it is because these pieces are essentially different sizes. And so you can't add two things together that are different sizes because then our numbers don't really make sense. So we're first going to get a common denominator. One easy way to do that is just to multiply by the opposite fraction. So here I'm going to multiply both of these by 5 and then both of these by 6. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 4 times 6 is 24. And 5 times 6, again, is 30. So here, now we do have common denominators. This is equivalent to this. These mean the exact same thing. If we were to draw these out in pictures, the pictures would match. But here, it just shows us that our pieces are the same size. So now we can add them together and our answer will be mathematically correct. So we're going to add the numerators. That numerator is the top number. So 5 plus 24 is 29. And then we leave the denominator at 30. So we can see that we have 29 pieces out of 30, or 29 30ths. Then our last step is to simplify. This problem doesn't simplify, so you don't have to. If I just had a, let's say, just make up a fraction real fast. All right, let's say we had 8/10 and you needed to simplify, just in case you forgot how to simplify. You need to think about what you can divide both the numerator and the denominator by in order to make these whole numbers. They still need to be whole numbers, but they need to be smaller, okay? So here 8/10 can both be divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So these two fractions, again, are equivalent. They are the exact same, except 4/5 is simplified and 8/10 is not simplified. Okay, so that's just a little simplify reminder if you need it. All right, and then we're gonna look at subtracting fractions. So when you subtract fractions, again, write out the problem, make your denominator equivalent, subtract the numerators, keep the denominator, and then simplify. Okay, so here if I said 3/4 minus 2/3, you would need to subtract, but in order to do that, you need to have common denominators. So again, just like we did over here, just gonna flip those, gonna multiply this side by 3, and this side by 4. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 4 is 12. So now that we have common denominators, we can subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1, and it's going to be over 12. So 1/12. So that also does not simplify, so we don't have to simplify, but if we could, then we would. Okay, so hopefully this helped. Again, this was just a refresher. This was not me teaching you how to add and subtract decimals and fractions, but hopefully this just reminded you how to do it if you forgot, and if for whatever reason you were a little bit confused, now hopefully these examples helped make sense. Okay, down here I have just the rules again for positives and negatives. We're still missing some, not everyone, but some people are. So just a reminder, when you are adding, when I give you a plus sign, when you are adding, if you have the same signs, if they are both positive or they are both negative, you add the number, keep the sign. So -6 plus -5, add the numbers, keep the sign. Okay, if you have different signs, -6 plus +5, first thing you're going to do is subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1, and then you ask yourself, do I have more positives or more negatives? Here I have more negatives, because I have 6 negatives and only 5 positives. So since I have more negatives, my answer is negative. So make sure you pay attention to those negatives, because now your fractions and decimals are also about to be positive and negative numbers. And then when you're given a subtraction problem, let's say we have 10 minus -7, the first thing you need to do is change it to an addition problem. The reason is because this is confusing to us. It's hard to know if our final answer should be positive or negative. So when we change it to addition, it shows us clearly, obviously, what our answer should be. So when you change it to addition, the first number stays. Subtraction changes to addition. So we have to do the opposite with that last number. The opposite of -7 is +7. Now here, you have two numbers. They have the same sign, so you're just going to add the numbers, keep the sign. 10 plus 7 is 17. It's positive, so your answer stays positive. So your notes for the day. I am going to do some of the classwork with you. If you want to watch the next video, you can go back to your virtual classroom and check it out. Otherwise, you have classwork and you may work on that. So I hope you guys have a good day. If you need anything, like always, make sure to email me. If you have questions or need help or are confused, email me, okay? Also, just a reminder, you are writing down these notes. You are keeping up with them, because at the end of this unit, you will bring them and turn them in for a grade, okay? So, see you later. Have a good day.